Hi, welcome. Today we got Frank Y, 2021 second baseman from Bridgeport High School. Another Appalachian ace playing at the next level, heading to Fairmont to play with Phil Caruso and the boys at Fairmont State. Frank, appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Real excited to be here.
Sure. So for those who don't know who Frank Y is, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a 5'8", 145-pound middle infielder from Bridgeport High School. I've been playing baseball ever since I could remember, probably since I could hold a bat, And I don't know, I just really love the game, and I'm super excited to play at Fairmont State next year.
Awesome. What about the family? You got a big family, small family? Have you lived here all your life?
Yeah, I've lived in Bridgeport my whole life, and most of my family's from Pennsylvania. And so it's kind of hard for them to come to the games locally, but they make it to all the games they can, and they love watching baseball. So they have a great time down here.
Now, anybody that sees your name like on a measurable list or some sort of team or something, there's a 3 at the end of your name. Tell me a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, I'm Frank Y the third. My grandfather, he was also Frank Y, as well as my dad. So 3 is my lucky number, and I try to get 3 every year in sports. And it means a lot to me being a third. I have to carry on that Frank Y legacy.
Okay, I didn't put the number together with that. My brother has my dad was a James L. Davis. My brother's a James L. Davis. His son is a James L. Davis, and he just had a son that's James L. Davis. So it's we got a little bit of that going on over here too.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool having the third at the end of my name.
So listen, man, the recruiting process can be tough sometimes. There's a lot more no's than there are yeses. And so tell me a little bit about how you made it through kind of the rough patches of maybe thinking, hey, maybe I don't belong. Maybe this, maybe I'm not going to make it. Maybe the coaches weren't responding like you thought. To talk to some of the younger guys about, what that's like and how you dealt with that.
Yeah, so my first year with the Aces, I was promised a lot of exposure, which I did get. There were a lot of college coaches looking at me. That was not looking at me, but looking at the team as a whole. That was my sophomore summer, I believe. And obviously, with all that exposure, I expected a lot more coaches to be reaching out and stuff, which didn't happen. That really humbled me. And that summer's when I met you, and we started talking about the recruiting process and how there's a lot more extra work other than just playing. So that really kicked me in the butt, got me into gear. And ever since then, I've been focusing on getting my name out there, sending out emails, taking videos and highlight reels and stuff like that, getting them to coaches, trying to get my name out there as much as I can.
Yeah, sure. So along with those low times where, maybe there's not much activity or not things are happening, there's also those really, really key moments where you kind of think, man, this is going to work. Do you remember back to some of the high moments or some of the exciting times?
Yeah, when I got my my first offer from college, obviously the first one's it's the big one, all the work you put in, and it finally pays off there. So that was definitely an exciting moment for me, getting my first call from a coach. And he invited me to a visit, and we took a visit, and he actually offered me on that visit. So that made me feel special. My first big
Yeah,
offer, my
you
first
finally you get that sense that you belong, right? That hey, all the hard
yeah.
work's paying off now. Okay, hey, now it's on. It's not just something that's out there that could happen. Now I'm in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
So as far as your bio, what are some, it's one of the early keys is to try to get a coach to come see you play or show some interest. So what are some of your measurables you think that stand out that you think really translate into coaches having some interest in you?
Um, I I never had great measurables. My showcase numbers were never too special. But my coaches used to say that I'm better on the field than I am in a showcase. My my real life gameplay is better than my numbers. I'm definitely a base stealer, but my 60 time it's around 6'9", 7 flat, so it's not anything flashy, but I can steal bases.
Hey, listen,
But
from an old pitcher guy, A 6'9", that's a pretty good time, man. You're blowing that off like that's not a great time. That anytime you get sub 7, man, you're doing all right.
Yeah, well, it can always be improved. So I'm
Sure.
gonna try to get faster this year.
So tell me about that. So there's a lot of guys in that category. So you have those two, sometimes you have those freaks that are, that's got 100, exit velocity, or a guy throwing 90. I mean, that those guys obviously stand out, but there's more guys than not that are good baseball players, but maybe don't have that standout. So what do you recommend for those guys when they're going to showcases or trying to get seen?
Play to your strengths. I'm not a big power hitter. I made a living off of hitting the gaps, doubles and singles. So when you're in showcases, focus on trying to hit the gaps. Don't try to hit the ball out of the park if you're not capable of it.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. As you look back on your recruiting journey, what were 2 or 3 of the things you think that you did that were really helpful in getting communication started with some college coaches?
The biggest thing is emails. I sent an email to Coach Caruso, and within a week he responded and he made a phone call, and we were able to talk a lot about baseball. So that was a big thing for getting committed to Fairmont. And another thing was the highlight reel that you helped me put together. I know I sent that out to a few coaches, and obviously this year it was big because they couldn't watch me play live because of COVID. So they got to see some highlights, and that was definitely a big help for me.
Yeah, for sure. So when you look at Fairmont, so you say you sent an email, so the coach reached back out. What do you think was your big break? Because there's a big difference from a coach starting a communication process or showing some interest and actually, getting the offer. What do you think your big break was there?
My travel ball coach and my coach, he's been my coach for about 10 years now, Billy Reap. His son actually goes to Fairmont, so he's been talking to Caruso, and he put a good word in for me. And that got my foot in the door. I sent him an email, sent him some highlight videos, and I don't think without Coach Reap, it definitely would have been a lot harder of a process. He definitely helped out big time.
Sure. So I don't know that younger players really understand how important it is to have some quality baseball guys in your network that know other coaches, or that if they call a coach or communicate with a coach, that they're respected. How did you go about kind of growing that network of quality baseball guys that could give you good references?
Well, ever since Little League, I've been around Billy Reap, and he played D1 baseball. I played for the Mountaineers, so he knows what he's talking about. And then as I got older, now I play for Coach Shields at Bridgeport. Six straight state titles that's a big award there, so he knows what he's doing. And then
Sure.
even in travel ball, I play under Josh Kirkendall. He played at Fa State. He's a great guy, great coach. And JT Heenan, he was my coach for a year. He's the coach at Salem. They've all definitely helped me and pushed me to be a better player. So without them, I don't think I'd be here.
Yeah, it's important for young guys to kind of make sure, because if you just have one guy that you're working with all the time and you really don't have that network, I mean, everybody has, their networks are limited, so each guy only knows so many coaches. But if you can multiply that and get multiple guys, that tends to really help guys.
Yeah, you want to surround yourself with as much knowledge as you can, for sure.
So when you look back, what mistakes do you think you made that you would recommend maybe younger players doing something different or starting earlier, or what were some of the mistakes that you would have other people avoid?
Emails, like I said, the email is what got me to Fairmont State. Don't be afraid to send emails. That's how you get your name out there. That's how you get noticed by coaches. Don't be shy at all. I was definitely shy and timid my first couple of years trying to get recruited, and that was a big mistake.
It's hard. It takes a little gumption to kind of send those first ones out. Then once you get it rolling though, and you start having a conversation or two, did you find it got a lot easier once you kind of got past those first few?
Yeah, definitely get more comfortable. Um, you learn how to talk to coaches more. You learn how to tell them what they want to hear, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So experience definitely helps when it comes to that.
So when you look back, when did you actually feel like you started the recruiting process, and what were some of the first things you did?
My sophomore summer, when it was my first year with the Aces, that was my first year getting a lot of exposure, a lot of bigger tournaments. So the first things I did was I made a list of the schools that I wanted to go to, and crossed off the ones that are out of reach, that are unreasonable, financially. And obviously, I wanted to go to Pitt, play baseball, like ever since I was a younger kid. But that's really tough to do, go D1 school. So I had to lower my standards, and I made a list and checked off the ones that I wanted to go to and the ones that I couldn't make it to. So it really helped me narrow down the schools I wanted.
Sure, sure. That would probably saved you a lot of time and effort
Hmm.
with a targeted list for sure. Talk to me a little bit about the offers. So, how did that work? What did the coach say? Did it happen on the phone? Was it in person? Tell me about the offer.
So my first offer was on a visit. I visited a school, and right there at the end of the visit, he invited me to his office, and it was me and another player. We were both in there together, and then he made an offer to both of us. Um,
Oh, really? So you're
I
both
didn't I
sitting there at
didn't
the
accept that
table, and
one.
he's offering both guys, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
I've never heard that.
definitely.
That's interesting.
I never heard it either, so it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. And then my offer from Fairmont was actually the first time I talked to Coach Crusoe. I sent him that email about a couple days later. He called me, and we talked on the phone about baseball, about school for about 30 minutes. And at the end, he made an offer right then and there.
So walk me back the very first one. You're on a visit. You're at the school. You kind of walk through go through the day. You get to the coaches meeting at the end. It surprises you a little bit. You get the offer. What's the drive home like? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Oh, it was very exciting. You know, I drove to the school with the player I was with, so we were both ecstatic about getting our first offer. It was his first offer as well. We played little league together all the way through high school ball, so sharing that experience with someone else was definitely it was a cool thing.
So you guys just went as players. Parents and stuff weren't there, or you guys just went
No,
up?
yeah, our parents were there. My mom
Oh,
and his
okay,
dad both
okay.
went.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's great. So, as you're looking or comparing schools, what were some of the factors that were important to you in selecting where you were going to end up?
Obviously, the biggest one was education. Where am I going to get the best education? Because baseball isn't forever. Um, and then I chose Fairmont because one of the reasons is Coach Crusoe was a former second baseman, so he knows what he's doing in that department, and he liked how smooth I am in the infield. So I definitely wanted to go somewhere where that would be appreciated, and I felt valued at Fairmont State.
Excellent. Talk about the communication process. How did that normally work with coaches? So you said you sent some emails out. You say you got some exposure at some of the Aces tournaments that they went to. How did the conversations normally start with coaches? Text, email, they call?
Well, um, my first offer, like my first communication with the coach, he was actually one of my travel ball coaches, and he saw me play for a whole summer, so he got to see everything. He wanted the good, the bad, everything. And then other times it starts with an email. Sometimes they don't get back to you. Obviously aren't interested if they don't send an email back. But when they do respond, like I sent my email to Coach Crusoe, and he ended up calling me on the phone. So, you know,
So what are the when you get offers, are they talking, is it normally in the form of like dollar amounts? Are they talking percentages? Is it real clear? Because a lot of times I'll talk with guys and they'll say, man, I got an offer and I got off the phone and I really wasn't sure like what what exactly it was. And it's kind of hard to compare. Was it pretty crystal clear? Did they lay it out pretty good for you? And what did it kind of look like? Was it a dollar amount or a percentage? How did they do it?
So my first offer was a percentage, and it was confusing. I had to go home and crunch the numbers to find out the total dollar amount, but I figured it out. And then my second offer was a cash amount. Like he told me the number flat out.
Sure. So that way, because it is, every coach does it a little bit different, and it can be a little bit confusing. And sometimes you got to go back and ask some more questions. Okay, this is a percentage of what? Is this tuition? Is this total cost of attendance? And all that.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about how video worked in your recruiting process. You mentioned earlier, you had a skills video that you sent out. What was that fruitful? Did you feel like that was helpful with coaches? And what would you recommend younger players do in the video world?
Yeah, it was definitely helpful. I got the help from you, thankfully. You helped me put together a couple of my highlights from a summer ball season. Showed all the good things I did that year. And obviously with it being this year was weird with COVID. So coaches really relied on seeing video and highlight stuff like that. So it was definitely a big help there. And for everyone trying to get recruited, I would definitely invest in making a video, a highlight reel of yourself, maybe one every year, so you can show your progressions, show some numbers in it maybe. Those are definitely helpful. Videos are very helpful.
Sure. What about player profiles? Did you put together a player profile? Did you have an online profile somewhere, a hard copy? How did you use profiles?
I just went through the PBR website. It was really simple and easy. They did it for me. I went to a showcase. They put all my numbers down, all my stats and everything I needed there.
You just link that to coaches, like when you send emails and stuff, you just put the link to the PBR profile?
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll get questions from parents that talk about, hey, how do I pick a travel team? How do I know where to go? What should I do? How did you guys make that decision? How did you end up with the Aces, and how impactful was that in your recruiting process?
So we started out as a travel team, just a local travel team. Billy Reap is our coach. And he got in contact with Josh Kirkendall, and Josh explained that there would be a lot more exposure if we played with the Aces. They'd get in bigger tournaments, more coaches. So most of our travel team with Billy ended up playing with Josh, and definitely a big help because we traveled a lot more than we would have as a local team. We got a lot more attention, bigger tournaments. Everything Josh did really helped us out.
So as you look back, are there some venues that you remember that you maybe had some good outings at, that some coaches saw you at with the Aces? Anything stand out? Any tournaments or places?
We had a tournament in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It was a wood bat tournament. I don't know if you know the stadium. I don't know exactly what it's called, but I just remember the big white roller coaster in the background, in right field. I had a great tournament at the plate that time. I think I had 3 drag bunt base hits and a couple gap shot doubles, I think. And obviously no errors. So I was really proud about that, no errors.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about the education process. When you first started kind of, maybe thinking about, hey, I want to play college baseball. Were you aware of like all the rules or the regulations or the time frames and all that? Was all that clear, or is that something you would recommend to somebody trying to learn early in the process?
Yeah, definitely try to learn early. I was a bit confused when I started. I started late, but I was definitely a bit confused. I had to do a lot of research to catch myself up on that. So if you can learn all about that, before getting heavily recruited, then definitely do it, because it's a lot of work trying to catch up with that.
What about some camps or showcases? Are there any particular camps or showcases you went to that were pretty fruitful for you that you would recommend to other guys?
Do PBR. I did a lot of PBR camps and showcases. I don't know. I didn't do any other showcases other than PBR, just because I wasn't aware of them mostly. But yeah, I went to most of the PBR ones here in West Virginia, a couple in Glenville, a couple at Pro Performance in Morgantown. All of them really helped. They got my numbers out there a lot.
Sure. So walk me through what happens at one of those PBR events. What's a typical day or typical showcase look like?
Well, they are pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie about that. They are boring. You get warmed up, you stretch, Usually the first thing we did was we ran our 60s, and there's always a lot of kids there, so you got to wait in line, you got to stay loose. My last name was a W, so I was one of the last kids to go. So, I was stretching for about 30 minutes before I ran my 60. Then from your 60, what we normally did was we would field ground balls. As an infielder, you field a few ground balls at shortstop, make throws to first, trying to get your across the diamond velo. And then after that, we go into hitting. Never hit live or off a live arm. We hit off of BP. And, I just try to hit the gaps during that.
Yeah. And there's some strategy to what you're saying. So you mentioned earlier, it's kind of boring. There's a lot of guys that when they show up, they're not really prepared for how that works. And there's some strategy to trying to stay loose. So when when your number gets called, tell me about how you approach that.
So before I ran my 60, I was constantly stretching. I didn't want to sit down and relax and get tightened up before I went and ran. So I always stretched, and then before ground balls, again, I was next to last because my name's a W. So I made sure to pull somebody aside, and while the other kids are fielding, I would just make sure I was throwing and keeping loose, keep the arm warm. Don't want to get cold and shut down before you go out there.
And a lot of times you can get lost in the shuffle because in some of those events, if you're going late, you already threw maybe 20, 30 minutes ago. So having kind of the wherewithal to grab somebody and get a ball and throw a little bit, some guys will just kind of be quiet and they'll just wait and then do the best they can rather than kind of, like you said, be proactive and make sure your arm's loose and make sure you stay warmed up and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me about the recruiting timeline, how it worked for you. Because a lot of times you'll see guys, maybe their freshman, sophomore year signing or not signing, but committing to schools. How did you see the timeline for a lot of the players on your team, and how did it work out for you time-wise as far as, getting offers and making commitments?
So with the kids that I played with, most of us, we were local. So we weren't really exposed to the recruiting process until we met you and the Appalachian Aces. So our freshman year, we weren't even really aware of it. We were focusing more on the short-term goals, which is all right, but you always want to look to the future. Then by my sophomore year, we started getting into the recruiting process, and we started trying to get our names out there, get noticed. And both times my offers came in the fall. So I got targeted in the fall a lot more than the summer, I'd say. The fall is definitely a big targeting period, in my experience, at least.
Yeah, so coaches maybe have a little bit more time there early in that fall before guys show up on campus, or if they've got a short fall season, they've got some time to maybe see some guys.
Yeah.
So there's you have a good middle school or like a freshman, sophomore player who's starting to think about the recruiting process. What advice do you have for those guys?
Be proactive. Don't be afraid to get your name out there. Show your skill set. Email as many coaches as you can. You want to get on their radar, and then you want to play well and stay on their radar. Don't be shy. That's one of the mistakes I made. I was a little bit shy at the beginning, but definitely be proactive. Emails, phone calls. Try to schedule visits. Do whatever you got to do to get recognized.
A lot of times it makes a difference when a coach knows or sees you seeking them, that you want to play on that team. That can make a difference from if they're looking for, multiple guys, and for some guys, it's just, hey, this is another option. And you have this one kid who's emailing and say, hey man, I'm interested. I want to be a Falcon. I want to play on this team. I think that can sway coaches sometimes, when you've got, because a lot of players are, really similar. They're just looking for something to kind of, tip the scale a little bit, and sometimes being proactive or staying after it with a coach can make that difference.
Yeah, coaches definitely value a player who's willing to be vocal. They'll tend to shy away from somebody who's quiet and timid. They want to go after somebody who can help the team be a leader.
Sure. What about academics? What kind of role did academics play in your recruiting process? Is that something the coaches brought up, and did they bring it up early or later in the conversation? How did that roll out for you?
Yeah, Coach Crusoe, that was the first thing he talked about, was my academics. Obviously in West Virginia, they offer the Promise Scholarship. So My ACT score was high enough and I qualified for promise. So that really cut down the tuition cost, that was the first thing Coach Crusoe talked about. He was really
So,
happy
so
with my scores.
yeah. So for that family or player that may not understand that process, obviously baseball being equivalency sport, you're not getting a full ride. So you're getting percentages or portions of tuition, that kind of thing. Being able to kind of put that academic money with the athletic money is pretty important. When you look back at that, from an academic side, what advice would you give guys that are maybe middle school or just starting their high school careers?
Put your work in the classroom first. Get your homework done before practice. Make sure you're studying for your tests. You could be the best baseball player in the world, but if your grades aren't there, you're not going to get into college. So grades are very important.
Yeah, you may not be eligible, or a coach may not be able to put together a package that's financially affordable for you.
Yeah, high ACT scores, ACT, SAT, that can get you the promise. Promise is a huge help in West Virginia.
And a lot of times, man, there's probably more baseball players, or there's probably a lot more players getting more academic money than they would end up getting scholarship dollars in the end, just the way things work out with the limited scholarships that coaches have to offer.
Yeah, for sure.
So in your process, any funny recruiting stories or any interesting stories you want to share with us? The things may have happened on the road on a travel team, or
yeah, being on a travel team, this past year, our summer team we were really, really close with each other. A lot of great friendships were built that year. I remember in Cincinnati, our first tournament, nobody really knew each other. It was the first time meeting for most of us. So we got together, and I invited a couple of kids up to my hotel room, and I had my Xbox set up, and we were all just sitting around playing Xbox, talking to each other. And we actually did that for about 3 nights that weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were all just chilling in my hotel room, getting to know each other. A lot of funny stories were told. A lot of Call of Duty was played.
I was gonna say, what's the game of choice?
Yeah, Call of Duty. We played Call of Duty all weekend.
So are you good?
I like to think I'm good. I got a .98.
Who was
the
best? Who was the best of the guys you played with on the team?
I'd say either me or Drew Hogue. We were both pretty good at
it. Drew's good. He can
yeah,
he can get it done. Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty good at Call of Duty. I definitely say the worst is Tyler Gilpin.
He is no good, huh? He's got no skill set with the controller.
No, not at all.
Listen, man, I appreciate you spending some time with us, Frank. 2021 second baseman from Bridgeport High School, Appalachian Aces travel team, heading down to Fairmont to play with Phil Caruso. Buddy, I appreciate you spending some time and talking recruiting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.